Hi everyone, it's Ashley Brotzel here. I am very excited to show you my new blanket pattern. This is called Belle to Infinity, and Belle is French, B-E-L-L-E, means pretty. So this is a pretty blanket that can be done as big as you want. Sorry about my microphone, I think I just smashed it with the blanket. It is a repeatable center out overlay mosaic crochet design. So I don't know if I can find the middle spot. It's either this one or this one. I think it's this one. So you start here and you go around and around and around, and you can make it as big as you want. Mine, I just went until I ran out of yarn. And the yarn that I've used is called Wander. Furls crochet hook also was sent to me, plus this yarn. So this one was Furls Streamline. And it's very pretty, and they sent me this hook and they sent me this yarn, and they said make a pattern and put it on your website. So I did, and this video is going to show you how to make it with me. This is all the yarn I have left. I used all the yarn they sent me, as much as I could, and then I couldn't go around any farther. And you'll see the back is just stripes because this is overlay mosaic crochet. So you can see the spot where I started, and I go around and around and around. And on the front here, you have the solid kind of triangle or diamond. Solid diamond and a polka dotted diamond. So the bottom of it, it goes like this. So you can see the diamonds. And because you can just keep going round and round, you don't actually have to finish to a certain point. So for my blanket, I used Obsidian, which is like black, and Tundra, which is this very light blue. So we've got this beautiful blanket, and you can come crochet with me right now. We're going to start from the center out, and most of my designs are written up for interlocking crochet and mosaic crochet, and this one currently just mosaic crochet. I may come up with an interlocking version later, but right now it's just mosaic crochet, center out, make it as big as you want. Let's go see how to do it. Okay, so like we said, we are going to start here in this center dot, and this is my contrasting color. Main color is this background that's black and a light blue for me. So we're going to start here with the contrasting color, and then we're going to work our way around and around and around. The first thing we're going to do using our contrasting color is make a magic ring. You can also chain two and work into that first chain, but if you have been practicing and practicing this, I'm going to make it easy, okay? So we've got our tail. It doesn't have to be long. We grab it. We're going to go around 2 fingers, and then we're going to cross it. So we've got an X over our finger here. We're going to go under this one and pull this one out. And as we pull it, we give it a bit of a twist. Oh, I got the rest of my hook there. So now this is our ring. You can let go at this point, but I prefer to grab, it's the yarn that's still attached to the skein. We're going to make a chain. Okay. This chain you can tighten very tightly. It's not actually counting as a chain. It's just what's holding everything together. And this loose tail now, you can tighten it. You can see it's adjustable. We're going to work into this hole, going over 2 strings, okay? The tail that you can tighten and the hole. And I like to make my hole a bit smaller because it's more like a stitch then, and it's easier for me to manage. We are going to put 8 single crochets into here. We're going to ignore this chain here. So our first single crochet doesn't have anything here, like we're not making an extra chain or anything. So try not to go too tightly when you're crocheting. And it can be fiddly, but you'll get it. So we've got 1, 2, I'm just going to tighten this a little bit. It's still a bit floppy for me. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now you could tighten it at this point. I prefer to very, very loosely tighten it. If you pull too hard, you're going to shrink that first stitch and it's going to be difficult to work into. And first, before you tighten it really tightly, you need to get into that first stitch. So I kind of just close it up so it's manageable. And I'm going to do an invisible join. I'm going to take my hook out and I'm going to go in through the back. This was that first single crochet. You can see the 2 loops. We're going to go through the back, through both loops. I usually do 1 loop at a time just because it's kind of a tight stitch. Then we grab that loop and pull it through. And now we can use that tail to tighten up that inner ring. This will loosen because right now it's just a loose little tail. So you've tightened it, but until you get a couple more rows and actually properly weave this in, it can loosen up again. So make sure you keep an eye on it. Make sure your tail is long enough that you can actually, sew it in later, and also long enough that it's not going to pop out accidentally. So that's why I use 2 fingers. It keeps it the right length for me. If you want it to be longer, you can wrap it around 3 fingers. We are ready to change colors. We're going to be grabbing our main color for row 2, and how we change colors in this design, if we just pull it through the loop. Now that it's in the loop, this one you can tighten. Nope, that's the inner circle. Here we go, this one. You can tighten it, and you can tighten it pretty tight. And we're also going to bring it to the front now because we're going to cover it up for 1 stitch. So the tail that I was using for main color, I want it to be long enough that I can weave it in later. So I've got these 2 tails now. And the working yarn, oops, don't get tangled. There's only 2 colors, so it's usually not super tangly, but this is maybe the hardest part, which is why I made a video, right? So we're going to make it a normal stitch size. We're just going to give it a little tug, not too tight, not too loose. And we're going to chain. However, we're actually going to snug it super tight because it's just our locking color change method. It does not count as anything when it comes to the pattern. It's just my method of color changes. If you want to do something else, that's up to you. Now that we're on row 2, round 2, using our main color, which for me is black, and we see on the pattern it has asterisks. And so you're going to do between the asterisks for all 4 sides. And I mean, right now we've got a circle. What are you talking about, all 4 sides, right? So the first thing we're going to do is this is the next stitch. It's kind of right attached to the main color. There's the back loop and there's the front loop. And our single crochets for Mosaic Crochet are always in the back loop. So we're going to go into there and we're going to carry this one across the stitch as well. We're going to hide it because it's going to be ready for the next row. So we're going to bring that one forward and we're going to pull up a loop and do our single crochet. And if you read the key, when it says SC, capital C, it stands for single crochet corner. So in this same spot, we're going to put another single crochet, and between those 2 single crochets, we have 1 chain. So it's single crochet in the back loop only, chain, and then another single crochet in that same back loop. However, we don't need to carry that yarn anymore. So we get it out of the way and we bring up the loop and finish the single crochet. That is the single crochet corner. And then we'll do our next stitch is just a single crochet. Because it's Mosaic Crochet, we know that the pattern says SC. We know it's a Mosaic back loop single crochet. Kind of, if you're reading a magazine, they're very specific and they make the stitch very long in the pattern. So I just shortened it. And that's one side. Turn our work. We're going to work on this side. We start with a single crochet corner. So here's our next stitch. Using the back loop, we're going to go single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. And we only have 1 stitch for this side. It's a single crochet. Now we turn our work. We're going to do the 3rd side. Single crochet corner, which is single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, and 1 single crochet for the stitch on the side. Now my yarn is a bit fluffy there. I don't know what happened, but he's going to stay tucked in. It'll be all right. turn it, and we've got a single crochet corner that has the chain space, and you go in the same stitch, and the side, one more stitch, single crochet. So we have used all 8 stitches, and we're now ready to do our invisible join, which means we take this one out. In this corner, sometimes it's hard to see the stitches, so you have to look here. Usually it's easiest for me to see, well, this is the stitch that's on the side. So this was our single crochet, our chain, which means that this was that first single crochet. So we're going to go in through the back, going under both loops. I know black yarn is difficult to see, and we pull it through. Then when we tighten this later on, sometimes you'll notice that when you're looking at your stitches, sometimes you can see this. This doesn't count as a stitch when you're counting. Sometimes you're going to see this if it's not been pulled tight enough, and you're going to ignore it and make sure you only work into the stitches and then the next stitch. So I'll go over that again, but it's just a warning. We're going to tighten this only to be a normal size, and we're going to switch colors again. So we pick up the yarn, the contrasting color. Make sure you're not using the tails. I don't know if your tails are long enough to get confused, but you want the yarn that's connected to the ball. We're going to pull up a loop, and then we're going to tighten this black because it's really just a changing color time. It's not a stitch of anything. And we're going to carry it to the front. Now we're using our contrasting color. We're going to make a chain and tighten it super, super tight. That's just our changing color method. It's not a stitch. It doesn't count as anything. And our first stitch, we're now on, this was row 1, round 2. Odd numbered rounds are going to always be using this contrasting color. So we're on 3, and we start with a single crochet corner again. A single crochet corner is always made into the chain of the previous corners. So when we look here at our corner, we had single crochet, chain, and the single crochet. You can put stitch markers now if you're having a hard time. The chain is where we're going to do our next corner. We're going to go into the back loop, and we're going to carry this black one just for one stitch. So I'm going to make it line up with the yarn there. Pull up a loop and do a single crochet in the back loop of the chain from the previous corner. Now to finish our single crochet corner, we chain 1 and do another single crochet in the same spot. We are not doing anything with this yarn though. This time he's just free and he can hang out back there and get ready for the next round. So single crochet corner done. Our next stitch is the sides. It's all three stitches now. So this one we had 8, then we had a corner with 1 stitch. Now we have a corner with 3 stitches. A double, a single, and a double. The double crochets do not use these black loops at all, the front or the back. We have to skip them. The single crochet will use the back loop here, and then the double crochet again is not going to use these loops at all. A double crochet means we're going to drop it down and pick up the front loop of the color that we're using. And when we drop it down, it's a circle down here, but you can see that this corner was made into this stitch, and this little loop there, that's the front loop from the previous corner. Our first stitch of the side, if it is a double crochet, is going to use the front loop of the corner stitch, the chain. You know, there are no chains here, so we'll keep going and you'll see how it works, but follow along and learn at the same time. That's how I like to do it. So yarn over, drop it down. We're going to go in, pull up a loop, and do 2 and 2. That's the double crochet. Behind it, this black stitch does not get used. So our next stitch is here, and it's a single crochet. So we're going to use the back loop, single crochet. The final stitch of each side, if it is a double crochet, is again going to use that front chain. So we're going to not use this, we drop it down, and the loop that is available is the chain. Now we're going to turn our work. We've finished the asterisks, and we start with a single crochet corner. So remember, this stitch you used, this stitch you skip, this is where the corner goes. If you're really careful at looking at it, you can see that we have our single crochet, our chain, and our single crochet from the corner, and the next corner stitch is using the chain. It's a single crochet corner, so we're going to go in the back loop. We go single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. And here on this side, the first stitch, when it's a double crochet and you drop it down, it uses the front loop of the chain from the corner, which is the same as the last stitch. So these are sharing that same loop. It's okay to share. They'll be okay. You might feel like it's stretching out while you're working here. It feels a little gappy. You can pinch it and hold it down to keep it from stretching out too much. Blocking and continuing to work will pull everything back together, and you don't really have to worry about it. So just something to know. We're going to skip that one. The next one is single crochet in the back loop, and our final stitch of the side using the front loop of the chain from the previous corner. It's too many words. You have to just watch what we're doing, right? Turn our work. So remember at the back here, we're skipping that stitch. The corner is always going into the chain from the previous corner. So we're going to go single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet. That's a single crochet corner according to my key. The next stitch is double crochet, sharing that front loop of the chain, then single crochet, and a double crochet. Turn our work. We're ready to do the chain, single crochet, chain, and single crochet all into the back loop of the chain in the corner. We're going to drop it down and use the front loop. Then we have single crochet, and if we drop it down here, it's the same loop that we had started with. And we're ready to join our invisible join again. Here's where it can get confusing. You can see this stitch here is not a stitch. That was our color change thing. So when you look at your corner, you're going to look, making sure that this is the single crochet, the chain, and the first single crochet. It's right here. We do not want to join into this stitch down here because that was just our previous color change. So we go through the back, grab our loop, pull it through, and we're ready to grab the other color. To do our color change, we pull it through and we tighten this one. When you tighten this one, if you don't get it tight enough, you'll see that color change spot. So you want it to be quite tight. However, if you pull it too tight, which I know is possible, people think, oh no, you'll not pull it tight enough. You'll just collapse these stitches. So I think it's silly when designers make videos and they say, oh, you can't worry about the tension, it'll fix itself. Well, I am pretty good at wrecking things. So we've pulled it tight. We are now going to make this one be carried up into the front. We're going to grab our working yarn again here. We're making a chain, but it's just the tight color changing chain. Okay, so the yarn is locked. The color change is done. We're ready to start round 4. Round 4 again is a single crochet corner. It's going to be using the back loop of the chain that was between the 2 single crochets in the previous corner. So we go into the back loop, and I want to carry, just for the first stitch, this color. Get this tail out of there. There we go. So I bring it up, I do my single crochet, my chain, and the single crochet goes in the same spot, only this time I don't need to carry that yarn. And I finish my single crochet. Corner done. Now, if you're reading the pattern, we have brackets. Brackets are really not that scary. You just read from the beginning of the bracket to the end of the bracket, and then it'll say times 2, times 3, times 20. I don't know what it'll say. This pattern, obviously, you don't have room for 20. It just says times 2 for this one. So it says double crochet 1, single crochet 1, times 2. So we repeat it. Double crochet 1, single crochet 1, and then outside of the bracket it also has double crochet 1. So we're ready to do the bracket instructions, starting with our double crochet. This stitch here, this is the front loop and the back loop of that single crochet from the corner of the previous round. And when you drop down, black going into black, we need a front loop, and it'll actually be the front loop from the chain that all three of, well, there's only 2 stitches plus a chain. So the corner stitch is worked into the chain, and we are now going to use the front loop. So we drop it down and we find that front loop. It can be difficult to find these. You are allowed to use stitch markers to help you, okay? So we finish our double crochet, and then we skip that stitch. The next stitch, we're going to use a single crochet, and remember it's in the back loop. That leaves these front loops available for the next round in case we need to drop down for a double crochet. We don't have to know whether it's used or not, we just leave it available just in case. And we're doing the brackets, so we did double single, and we're going to do another one. The front loop is in here. We go double crochet 1. Oops, I split my yarn. Let me try again. And single crochet 1. Outside of the brackets, we still have one more stitch for the side, and it's going to be skipping this, which means the next stitch we use is this one. So you can make a marker if you need to, but for this one, when you drop it down, it is the front loop of the chain that you used for your corner stitches. So we're going to go right in there, and that's the side. Now we turn it and we start back at the corner. So we're starting back at the corner. Remember, we're skipping that stitch here because it's behind the double crochet. A corner stitch always goes into the previous corner stitch. So we've got single crochet in the back loop, chain 1, single crochet in the same back loop. Then we've got double single, double single, double. So we drop it down, and it uses the same front loop that this one is using. They share. Okay, double, single, times 2, so we're going to do it again, double, single, and then we have one more double, and it's the front loop. Can be difficult to find them. If you're having a hard time finding them, I suggest you put stitch markers in when you create the chain. So right now we're about to do our corner, and you could go single crochet, chain, single crochet, and now you could put stitch marker. Maybe you want to know the stitches, you would put it in under both loops, or maybe you want to know specifically that front loop or the back loop. Whatever you're trying to find, do some exploration. We are going to do our side, which is double single, and a double. Now we're lucky that this is a double crochet, because then we don't have to look at these stitches at all. You can see here in mine, if I pull it apart far enough, these loops here, that was my color changing loops. The next stitch is actually this one right here. We're going front loop and back loop. So because we're doing a double crochet, we're skipping those stitches, so we've ignored them. But if you had a single crochet at the end of your round, you'd want to make sure that you're not using the color change mark. You're only using that stitch that's closer to the corner. So with a double crochet, we don't have to worry about it. We're just going to drop it down, and we're done. We're doing our invisible join. Remember again that you've got single crochet, a chain, single crochet, and possibly you can see your knot, so don't use your knot, your color changing knot. We only want the single crochet. We're going to bring our loop through it, tighten it just a little so it's manageable. Pick up our contrasting color, pull a loop through, pull this quite tight and carry it forward. Make a chain and pull it really tight. It's really our color changing knot. Now we are ready for round 5. Round 5 also begins with a single crochet corner. So we've got single crochet, chain, single crochet. So the chain is right here, the back loop is here, and we're going to carry this yarn for 1 stitch. Bring up the loop, single crochet, chain, and then the second single crochet is in the same spot, not carrying the yarn, single crochet. So that is our corner. Round 5 says do 1 double crochet, 5 singles, and then another double crochet. So we've got to look here for that front loop from the chain that is holding all these stitches. So it's kind of sideways here. This is the one. One double crochet, now 5 singles. One double crochet at the end. So you can see when you're looking down here, there's the yarn that goes through all the stitches. There's some yarn covering it over here. And it kind of comes through there and makes a loop across. And then the yarn goes here, and there's like this loop that comes down as well. So it's this the frontmost loop. So that's the one you're going to grab. Double crochet. Turn our work. I'm going to do single crochet corner, 1 double crochet in that same front loop, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our final stitch, don't forget, is the double crochet. And repeat. So repeat that for the next 2 sides. I'll see you at round 6. Okay, we did it. We're color changed and ready to go. Round 7. If you're not sure what row you're on, you can look at the back. That middle dot in the middle here, light color for me, that's my contrasting color, row 1. And you can count 1, 2, 3, or you can go, oh, though this is 1, which means my black is 2, and I can count by 2, 4, 6 quite easily, right? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which means I'm now on black. I'm going to be doing round 6. I've done my color changes, it's tight, it's ready. I'm starting with a single crochet corner. So that's in the chain space. I'm going to carry this once. Chain and again. Now for this side it says do 1 double, 1 single, and then 5 doubles. So we're going to be using all of these front loops. And what ends up happening is that these don't get used at all, and they turn into a bit of a flap on the back. So I will go over some optional locking methods. So round 6 starts with a double crochet. This is the stitch we're skipping. We're going to use the front loop. I know black can be hard to find. Stitch markers, pulling on it, whatever you need to do. Our next stitch is single crochet right on the top of this double crochet. And then all 5 of these are double crochets. We're going to use the front loops. These back loops, front and back, are not getting used. There are quite a few methods out there of locking your stitches in. So instead of doing double crochet, double crochet, double crochet. And what happens is that this loop is just not attached to anything. Some people find that flap really bothersome. I'll show you the flap. If we can get to the end of my 5 double crochets, the next stitch is here, single crochet, and the final stitch of the side, so that we don't forget, I'm just going to do it now, double crochet. So on the back, and this one has the tiniest flap. That's how much gap it's not going to get your toe cut off or anything, but some people really don't like that. So instead, what you can do, let's do it on this side here. We've got our single crochet corner, double crochet using that same front stitch, 1 single crochet on the double crochet from before, and then these 5 here. When you yarn over and you pull up your loop, you're going to go yarn over, pull through 2, and this time before you yarn over, if you look at the back here, if you had done a single crochet in the back loop, that's the loop you would have used. So I'm going to insert my hook, and now I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to pull it through all 3 loops. So we'll do it again. Drop it down, pull up the loop, so you've got 3 here, just like a double crochet, yarn over, pull through 2, but now before we yarn over, we're going to go into the back loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. There are other methods. This is my preferred method. Be aware, depending on how you lock your stitches in, you can compress the stitches. You could be using more yarn than you're expecting. If it's some of the techniques, they really shorten these double crochets. So this is the technique I prefer because it doesn't... Yeah, I don't know what I was saying. And then our next stitch here, single crochet in the back loop and the double crochet. Because the double crochet is all by himself, I don't lock it. That's how I would do it. I also would not be locking. You can tell here, even from the front, they're stuck. You can see that they're kind of stuck there. It's not as flexible. The flappy gappy is gone, but this flappy gappy doesn't bother me. So I actually do not do this very often. It has pulled the stitches down, it's shortened them. So if you have a lot of rows that lock it in, you will find it compressing your final piece. You can see this one's much loftier. There are other methods that lock stitches in, so you can try them if you like. I don't think they're necessary, so I typically don't do them. Turning my work to continue on to the next side, we're going to do our single crochet, chain 1, single crochet for the corner, drop it down. There's only 1 double crochet here. He's not making a flap all by himself, so I never lock a single one by itself. And then single crochet and 5 across. Some people prefer to lock every other stitch, every 3rd stitch. I prefer none. I do not like locking the stitches, so I just go just like normal and I make a little flap. I'm now ready to do round 7. We are again starting with the single crochet corner. So we find the back loop of the chain, insert our hook, carry this black one for 1 stitch, yarn over, no, not yarn over, just pulling up a loop, chain 1 and insert again, but not carrying it for the second. And we're ready. Starts with 1 double crochet, So we're familiar with finding that little hole and grabbing the front loop. Then we have a single crochet. It's impossible to put a double crochet here because there's no blue loop for us to grab. So we know it has to be a single crochet. The next stitch is a front loop double crochet dropped down 2 rows below. That's too much all to say at once, right? So I just say double crochet. You have to know that you're doing mosaic and all of the double crochets are like that. And now we're going to do 5 single crochets. Now this is that flappy part here. A different option for containing that flap is that right now, when you're about to do your single crochet, instead of pulling up the loop now, when you insert your hook, you also reach down here and grab that back loop of the color that was there. And now when you insert, you're going to pull it up. All of these stitches are going to go through 2 loops and make a single crochet. And it's going to contain that flap. And it is also one method that can be used if you do it every single time. Every time you have a double crochet, you're going to reach down and grab that loop. It creates a reversible image on the back. It does, again, loosen, it tightens it so that the flexibility is not as great. And it does shrink just a little bit your whole piece. So I typically don't do this either. Double crochet 1. Single crochet, double crochet 1, that's the side. We're going to turn it. We're going to do our corner. Remember, so at the back here, whenever we did a double crochet, unless you're doing this weird locking thing, you'll have a stitch back here that you've skipped. So we've got the chain from the corner, the back loop of the chain, putting our corner stitches, and then we have double, single, double, okay, we're ready to do round 8. It uses our main color, which for me is black, and this is the tricky part about round 8. Up until this point, all of our corners were single crochet corners, and this one is a double crochet corner. It's not super scary, it's just a little bit different. So like usual, we look here and we know that this was the single crochet, the chain, and the single crochet. So this back loop of the chain, I'm still going to use it because I lock my double crochet corners. Remember I was saying how I don't care about these flaps and I don't lock anything? I don't, except for the corners. So this is, the locking part will be optional. I'll show you both locking and not locking double crochet corner, okay? Step 1 for a double crochet, we're going to yarn over and we're going to drop it down, right? We have to find a front loop, and the only loop available to us is that chain, the front loop of the chain, just like the first stitch and the last stitch we had used. A double crochet corner also uses that chain. So if you have a double crochet corner and the first stitch and the last stitch are also double crochets, you will have 4 going into this loop, and that's okay. He can handle it. For this corner, the first thing we do is we go into the loop, we pick it up, we've got our 3, and we're going to do our double crochet like normal, okay? Then we chain 1 and we yarn over and we drop it down and we do our double crochet in that same spot. Oops. And that's the double crochet corner stitch. The first stitch of this row is also a double crochet, so we're going to be not using this stitch. So right here, that was the chain that we are skipping. The next stitch is just this one here. We're going to use the same front loop for the first stitch of our side. And then our next stitch is single crochet 3, and then we have 5 double crochets filling up this space again, And again, I don't lock these normally, so I did show you some options. You can use them. You can find a different designer who locks things and you want to try them. Go for it. It's your project. I am offering you the pattern and you can decide how you want to use it. Then we're going to have single crochet 3 again. It's a mirror image. What happens on this side also happens on this side. So 1, 2, 3. And our final stitch before we get to the asterisks is a double crochet. So we got to find that front loop of the chain from the corner. And that's what the side looks like. Nothing has been locked. These are flappy. This is flappy. That's what it looks like. I prefer to lock only the corner stitches. So when I start this side, I'm going to show you how I do it. So back here, you can see that our corner had single crochet, chain, and single crochet. This single crochet is the one we're skipping because of this stitch here. And this chain is what I'm going to lock everything into, the back loop of that chain. So first, we just yarn over. We're going to drop it down and we're going to find that front loop and we're going to put it in the same front loop as before. That last stitch was here and now our corner stitches are going to go into here. So we'll put 2 for the corner and the first stitch here. So we'll have 4 in here. But right now I've done the first half of my double crochet and then I am going to find the back loop of that chain. And then I just pull it through all 3 loops. Chain 1, yarn over, drop it down to that same front loop. I'm going to pull through 2 stitches and then I'm going to insert it and pull through all 3 all at once. So now my corner stitches are locked. The first stitch is a double crochet and I don't bother locking it because I really only lock the corners, but you could lock it. You could lock all of them. You could lock none of them. You have the power, the options, the ability. And we're going to do our rest of our row as normal. Okay, so I've finished the round almost. I did 1, 2. My third single crochet is on top of this double crochet. And I just wanted to point out again that your next stitch here, when it's a double crochet, it doesn't matter what you're skipping back here. So the final double crochet, if it is a double crochet, uses that same front loop that these other 3 stitches had been in. And I'm going to connect it and then I'm going to show you the wrong side because I have some corners locked and some corners not. Okay. So this corner up here is where we've been changing our yarn. So because it's carrying it, we actually don't get quite as much flap because it's half locked. It's sort of locked. This is what looks like when I lock it. It's stuck. This one is unlocked and it has the tiny little flap. Just like down here there are flaps when you don't lock it. The corners get flappy when you have a double crochet corner because it's not using these stitches. For some reason these flaps don't bother me, but the corner flaps do. So that is why I lock my corner flaps in like this. I like them to be flat. I don't care about this one. It's up to you what you want to lock and not lock. That is just how it goes. And this is where we had, this is one version of locking the stitches. This was that other version. So methods are different, but on the front side, the picture is still the same. This is the end of round 8. This is our first double crochet corner. Almost every single round is a single crochet corner, but there is a double crochet here for round 8. And once you get to round 21, you'll have another double crochet corner. Most of them are all single crochet corners. Another thing that we haven't quite seen in the videos is what to do. I kind of explained it, but when you are at this, where are we? Here's where the yarn is at, up here. You've got your stitches, but sometimes you can see this connecting thing. And we want to make sure that you're not using this to do a stitch. So I'm going to go a few more rounds and then you'll be on your own. So color change time. Grab our yarn, switch it over, pull it tight, bring it forward, chain it, lock it down. Okay, we're ready to do round 9. And round 9 is easy to memorize. It's a single crochet corner, and all of these stitches will be single crochets. So remember, single crochets are all in the back loop. The corner stitches, of course, are going in the same spot because we're increasing on those corners so that they have room to be square. If you want to count, you should. It's a good practice. Sometimes I'm lazy and I just go. If you're messing up your count, though, it will affect your future rows. So it is important that you make sure you get every single stitch. And when you've got singles and doubles, you want to make sure you're skipping behind the doubles, not adding stitches, right? That is the most common place to make mistakes. So we are just going to do 15 single crochets all the way around. And the corners are also single crochets. You can count, or you can tell if you're good at looking. I can tell that this stitch that's kind of smaller than the other stitches, that's the chain from the corner. So I know that I'm at my corner stitch, which requires me to increase, do the corner chain thing. You can also look here, we've got double crochets. These are the front, the last stitch and the first stitch of each side. Then we've got our corner, double crochet with the chain in the middle. So depending on how you want to look at it, counting, staring, whatever, this corner chain is where you need to make your other corner. And then you keep going, single crochet all the way across. Go, 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 go. Okay, so I've nearly completed round 9. If you're counting, we've got our single crochet corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is the 13th, and we need 15 single crochets. So right here, it's easy to find 14. And then people often get a little bit lost for that final single crochet, 15. And I know black is very hard to see, so I'm going to try to be as careful as possible. If you stretch this out, you can see actually right here, this was our color changing spot, and then right here is the stitch we want to use. So this is the front loop of that corner spot, and the loop that is beside it is the single crochet that we want to use. If you can see a loop between, this is the stitch we just did and this is the front loop, if you can see a loop between these two loops, that is just your color changing spot, and it does not count as a stitch, and you should not use it. You can possibly try tightening your color changes if you're feeling like they can be seen too much. The other thing is, when you go to use this stitch, the actual stitch, sometimes our color changing spot has kind of smushed it. So this color changing stuff, you can kind of pull it down out of the way, and now we can see the V. And so we're going to get the back loop, and it's the most difficult stitch for a lot of people. And you can actually see through the gap there, that was our color changing spot. So we've got our color changing loop here that doesn't count as anything, and through the gap back here, this is also our color changing knot. So now that we've finished our stitch, don't lose it, we're going to join our invisible join. In the corner we've got single crochet, chain, and single crochet. So this is our changing color knot. We want to use the front and back loop of the single crochet, but going from the back to the front to do our invisible join. And before we tighten it up too much, we're going to grab the other color. And this is where you want it pretty tight, because otherwise you get to see too much out here. Carry it to the front, grab the main color, and tighten it. We're ready to do the next row. Round 10 starts with, again, our single crochet corner, because most of these rows are single crochet corners. going to go over the color once, and then for the second stitch we're just bringing it back out of the way, single crochet corner. Now all of these stitches across are double crochets, which feels difficult when you're thinking about yarn hiding back there. I know this is where people go, what? Mosaic crochet is silly. But honestly, it's a nice, easy way of doing color work. Don't worry about one silly row, right? You can do your lock stitches however you want to do them. I do not lock them at all. So I am going to yarn over. This is the stitch we're skipping. When we drop it down, the first stitch and the last stitch of every side, when it's a double crochet, uses that front loop of the chain, just like a double crochet corner would use. So we're going to drop it down, and you can count them. We're going to have all of these front loops are going to get used, so you can count them if you want. It goes from corner front loop all the way across to corner front loop, and when we turn it, we're going to use that front loop again. So it's 17 double crochets. Okay, so I've done one side of corner, single crochet corner, 17 double crochets, and now I'm ready to turn my work. Now this is, again, when you're trying to find your single crochet corner, you could count all the stitches you skipped, or you can just look at what's going into, these two stitches are all both going into this stitch, and the stitch in the middle is the chain. So the back loop is where I want to put all my single crochets for this corner. 1 and 2, we did it. So on this side, again, it's going to start with the front loop, which is the same loop that we used for this stitch. They're going to share. Every other stitch is going to get its own loop, and we're just going to go all the way across all double crochets. So this round is also pretty easy to memorize, and I know you can do it. So I will see you when we're ready for the next round. I wanted to show another reason for locking these corners in. Here, where I have not locked this double crochet corner in, there's a bigger gap. So I'm doing my corner stitches here, the single crochet corners, and the two stitches, the first stitch and the last stitch of the row are in that loop, and the chain gap here is quite a bit gappier than this one where I had locked everything in, and there's, you can, if you pull it apart, you can see the other color through, but you can't see your finger through. So that's the difference there. I don't know if you prefer to see fingers or colors, but that does affect it as well. On the next row, how you locking your stitches affects everything. Okay, I'm on my final side of round 10. I'm supposed to have 17 double crochets here, and this is 15. And I want to show you down here, I know it's in black and that's hard to see, but down here, again, we have the potential problem of seeing where the colors have been switched, that little knot. So this is the knot, and when you go down, it's on an angle like this all the way across. So the knot is here. My next stitch, stitch 16, I can accidentally grab the color changing spot, or I skip it, and I'm going to be grabbing the front loop right below here. It is the closest one to the corner. So the corner stitch, this chain, then there's the next one, and that's where our color spot is. So when we are doing, this is 15, the next stitch, 16 double crochet. When you look down here, there is a loop, but that is the color changing spot. We are going to not use it. We're making sure we are using only the front loop of the single crochet, and then stitch 17 is the front loop of the chain, the corner again. So once your stitches are together, you can't tell that there was anything there. It's when you're searching for the front loop that you might grab the wrong thing. And our invisible join again, make sure we're not grabbing the knot. We are using the first single crochet of the corner to bring everything to the back. Tighten it all up, and we're ready for round 11. Now, We have done this sort of thing before. It's a single crochet corner. We're going to carry it, chain, single crochet, not being carried. And the stitch, the first stitch right here, if it's dropped double crochet, uses the front loop of the chain. So if you're still having a hard time finding those, on the previous round is where you should be putting stitch markers. And then all of these, because they're already double crochets, you can't put a double crochet. We are using the contrasting color. It can only be single crochet, so we're going to do 17 single crochets until we get to the end. Don't forget your final stitch of the side. I don't know, it's easy for us to kind of forget that we were reading the pattern, so it is something that can be forgotten. So that's 17 single crochets. This is the chain in the corner. So this stitch here, we're doing a drop double crochet. We're going to grab the front loop. You can see a lot of loops down here. This is the loop you want right there. Then that's final double crochet. That finishes our side. Then we turn it and we start with our single crochet corner. You know how to do that. So I think that we are done until I'm going to see you at the end of round 21. So you're going to use the pattern. You're going to use the written pattern or the charts, and I'm going to see you at round 21. This is our center dot, and one repeat, one square, actually goes from this corners all the way here. So we are now have 1, 2, 3 squares wide by 3 squares tall. So we're really only counting the solid ones. So this is a grid of 3 by 3. And when we go to add the next rows, we'll be making, we did 1 square, then we did 9 squares all at once. Well, 8 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now we're going to be making 5 by 5 all at once. So if we finished the square, it would be 25. So this is my center square. These are the top designs of that square. So I just did a fake square so that I could get to that row. And that way the next video here, the next video clip is going to show you what it looks like when you do past 1 square and you have these little triangle arrow things. And we'll do this. Okay, so I did this very strange sample where the back is all loose yarn because I was just trying to get to this row, and when you're working from the center out, I didn't want to make it 4 times. So pretend like this is an actual square and you have just finished row 21. I'm going to do round 22 using the black, which is my main color, and it does not even join properly at the back. So what I really want to show you is those weird, there's 2, I don't even know what the word is. They're like little arrows. And it's a different type of bracket essentially. So I've already gone over, you can use the timestamps, brackets and how to use the brackets. This is essentially a different type of bracket. So we are just going to follow the row as written all the way across. And because we have not repeated this 100 times yet, we are going to basically ignore those triangle bracket things. Okay, so right now we're doing row 22. And it starts with a single crochet corner. So again, we know how to find our corner. It's just this one. Single crochet corner. And normally I'd be carrying my other yarn under there for the next stitch, but this isn't a real square. So you can think I'm weird. It's okay. So the first thing we see after our single crochet corner is 2 triangle bracket things. And it's like, well, what does that mean? And for this purpose on row 22, it's going to mean absolutely nothing. Are you ready for that? Completely ignore it and just go to the next part. It says single crochet 4. Okay, we can do that. 1, oops, 2, 3, and 4. And then we have brackets, and like I explained before, you just start at the first and go to the end. So it's a curved bracket, and we are going to do 1 double crochet. Then it says do 1 single crochet, so we can do that. And then we reach the other side of the curved bracket. So we've got 1 curve, and now we've reached the other curve. It says times 6. So we need to know that what's inside the curves is repeated 6 times. So this was once. We're going to do it again. Double crochet 1 and single crochet 1. And now you're going to have to count your repeats. This is where stitch markers can come in handy, or if you're like me and you prefer to just crochet really fast, what I often do is I count the first stitch, double, single, so I count this as 1, 2, 3, because I need to have 6 of them, right? And it works when it's just simple ones, 1 double and 1 single. Sometimes what's in the brackets can be a little more confusing, and then it doesn't always work. But in this case, we can count these double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need to keep going. Okay, so this is my 6th double crochet, but in the brackets it has 1 double crochet and 1 single crochet. So that is repeating the brackets 6 times. Then we have 1 double crochet with 7 singles. Whoops. Five, 6, and 7. Then we get to brackets again, and it's the same thing over here. We're going to repeat it 6 times, 1 double and 1 single. So you can count them 1 and 2. We're only counting the double crochets because we want to do the whole repeat, but really we also have 6 single crochets, right? I hope it's clear. It is probably one of the things that people message me about the most. Personal messages that I get from people is usually, hey, I think I found a problem in your pattern, or hey, I don't understand what's going on in this line. And 99% of the time there isn't a problem in the pattern. It's just that they missed a stitch or they were counting it wrong. And then for the people who know that they just don't understand these brackets, I send them a link and say, here, check it out. You can learn all about it. And then I try to explain the row. And sometimes it works and sometimes people just go, what? So I'm hoping the video will help you with that. So here we had 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and. So you could count 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So now we're done the brackets and we have to finish with 1 double crochet, 3 singles, 1, 2, 3, and then we get to the closed double triangle things, and that's again right now we're just ignoring it. So outside of that we have 1 more single crochet, and that's the side. If we were to turn our work and continue, we'd start with our single crochet corner, but I didn't do enough row here, so I can't show you that. That's how you do the row when you're on row 22. Let's get this tossed aside for a minute. If you've gone all the way and you did row 22, 23, 24, all the way to 61, so this is my middle, around here is 22, and then I kept going, and now I've gotten to the end, and it says if you want to make it bigger, which I do, you go back to row 22. So this is where I'm at. This is the same image, only my piece is much bigger. So I need to repeat it a few more times. And when I'm going to do round 22 this time, we are going to call it round 62. So it's up to you how you want to keep track of what row you're on. A stitch marker would be handy to say like, this is where I'm repeating from, or something like that. And we're going to do the same thing. It says start with a single crochet corner. So this time I did have my normal color change, so that's all right. We're going to find that stitch, the back loop only. This is like the trickiest part. I often have a hard time. The corner stitches. I know I could make the video look super easy, but honestly, sometimes I have a hard time with them. And I'm going to carry this one here. Don't want it to get tangled, so let's try again. So I have the yarn under, near the stitch, and I'm going to go into the corner stitch so that I'm going under the stitch and this yarn that I'm carrying. Pull up a loop, single crochet, chain, and then the next stitch is going in the same spot, but I don't need to carry the yarn again. And now, if you wanted to, you could put a stitch marker, because we are actually going to pay attention to those repeats. I don't think a stitch marker is necessary at this point, but this is where you would want to pay attention. So we're going to start with single crochet 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we have those brackets. We're going to do it 6 times to do a double and a single. 1 and 2 and 3. If somebody knows what those triangle bracket things are called, you can tell me in the comments. I'm sure someone will be happy to correct me and let me know what I'm actually supposed to be saying. And then we'll have 3 singles. 1, 2, 3. That is, now we're at the end of that triangle bracket thing. So this is how much we did on row 22 before, but now we have to repeat it, because we were doing 1 square at that point, and now we have 3 squares wide. Our grid has been giant. So we have to repeat between those little triangle things for every square that's been repeated across. So we are going to do it again. And it doesn't tell you how many times to repeat it, because if you made your blanket really big, right now I have 3 squares wide. If I got all the way to the end of 62 and started at 22 again, I would have 5 squares wide. So the number changes based on how wide your project is, which is why you just repeat from the beginning as many times as you're on. So this was 1. Now we're going to start back at the triangles. So we're ignoring that it says single crochet corner and then it had the triangles. So we're ignoring the single crochet corner because we're only going back to the triangle part. And it starts with 4 single crochets, which is perfect because normally across here you would have 7 single crochets. It's just that that bracket has interrupted the repeat. So you can count 7 or you can count 3 and then count 4. Either way, it's going to get you the same image. Over this little section you have 7, and now over this section you have 7. So now we're going to do our 6 double crochet 1, single crochet 1 until we get to the end of our repeat section again. So I did the repeat between those triangles twice, and now we just have to do it a 3rd time to get to the end. It's the same as this. That's why it's in the brackets. So I just go to the end, and once I get to the end, just like with this row, it says single crochet 3, and then the bracket ends, and there's still another single crochet. So it's because of where it ends in the repeat. So that's how you manage those triangle repeats. And so for every row, now that we are past the inner square, when you're doing it the first time, you ignore those triangles. Now that we're a bigger blanket, we have to repeat between the triangles, and whatever's in front of the triangle you only do once at the beginning, and whatever's behind at the end of the row you just do at the end to get to the end here. So you'll notice as your project grows that once you get to the end here, for this row we have 1 stitch. The next time we'll have 2 stitches. The next time it gets bigger. And this is the part that's going to grow like a triangle, but the repeating section is still the same width. And once you've got 5 repeats wide, that's when you'll have to start at the beginning again.
Okay.